Alrighty, folks, something I wanted to do today is share the Newsweek article with Jason Hartman, somebody who's been in the real estate game for the better part of 3 decades, that is calling for not only another 2008, but something that is worse than 2008 and ultimately a 50% housing crash. Jason, I don't think you've seen this article, so we'll bring it up on screen, but what's your initial reaction? 50% crash inbound.
Well, it's clickbait. People will certainly check out that article.
Yes. And content creators will celebrate, scaring their followers into watching the video. So
yes, they will.
So let me know if you can see this.
Just wait and see if it actually happens.
Yeah. or better yet, go back to their last 3 or 4 calls and realize they were complete garbage, and then stop quoting these people. But
Logan, of course, with Housing Wire, he went through her article. She and Nick Girelli and the Doomers, or Nick Gurley, whatever his name is, I mean, he just said, like, Melody was off. I don't remember the number. She's been off 29%. Her predictions, and his have been off like the same or something. I don't know. It's
even worse. Even worse. But let's get into this. I got when this came out 6 days ago, 100 people or so sent this to me, asked me to react. Basically, a lot of people said, "See, I told you, Zuber, you're wrong. Melody's right."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But here we go. We're gonna actually go through. We're gonna go through the article, and I'll just ask you to respond. So here's the headline: Price correction worse than 2008 coming to the housing market. That's the title. That'll make you click for sure. But let me just read a couple of paragraphs, and then I'll stop and let you respond. The U.S. housing market is going to face a price correction worse than 2008, according to housing analyst Melody Wright, who expects home prices to drop in half, starting as soon as next year. I see it happening over several years. So, in fairness, not 1 year, with the potential to determine faster than the last cycle, she told Newsweek. For instance, prices did not bottom into 2012 during the last cycle. I believe we could get started in earnest next year on price declines and see rather large drop historically speaking, but I still think it could take several years to bottom. So what do you start with this one?
Well, she's giving herself a lot of leeway there, because if you look, I mean, let me just tell you, folks, Zuber and I will not always be so realistic, and some would say optimistic, about the housing market, okay? Because when we get to the late 2040s, we are looking at a demographic cliff, okay?
Yep.
And, I don't think this is going to last forever, okay? Eventually, the supply, the building will catch up with the demand, okay? And the market will become balanced. The credible experts predict that we will be in a balanced market by 2032, so in 6 or 7 years, okay? That's when the market will be balanced, not a buyer's market, not a seller's market, just a balanced equilibrium type of market, okay? And, I would agree with that prediction, by the way. Generally speaking, I don't know, it will be exactly 6 or 7 years, but close enough for government work. But, if she says it's going to take 25 years to reach the bottom, I don't know, maybe she will be right in a quarter of a century. Okay. But in the foreseeable future, I mean, this is clickbait, sensationalist. If it bleeds, it leads. It's just junk stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And see, I've never been in Newsweek, and she has. Right. So do you see how, if you sell your soul, if you sell your integrity, if you make shit up, you will become way more famous. Okay. Zuber, have you ever been in Newsweek?
No, never been in Newsweek.
Right.
No. It goes on to say, and it's funny, this is actually this article has been rewritten. This is not the original Newsweek article. So they have changed it. But that's okay. So here's the next line I want to highlight. I think this is good. I think we're going to correct all the way to a point where household median income matches the home price. What?
So in other words, if the household median income is give or take $70,000 a year, the median home price will be $70,000 rather than $415,000, $20,000, whatever it is now. right?
I mean, that's what that sentence looks like. It says to me.
Michael, it's going to be worse than half this correction. You just can't. Like,
Yeah.
this is just crazy.
And then there's this line. This is going to devolve faster than last time, which I think
well, then
it's bigger and faster.
Yeah. Well, then she retracts the leeway she gave herself. She's saying it won't happen in the next quarter of a century. Okay. She's saying it'll happen in the next 3 years. Right.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. Yeah.
In the next, okay, mark this time, folks. It is December 1st, 2025, right now. In 3 years, home prices will be half, according to this article. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You better wait. You better postpone everything. You better just put your life on hold and wait for the housing market to crash so you can get a good deal.
Yeah. So in the initial article, she was quoted as saying a 50% crash, and she changed it to 38%. She's clearly, she's clearly reached out to Newsweek. This is a brand new article that's been written. So she didn't like some of the flack I'm guessing she was getting for her 50% crash.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Oh, here it is. There's going to be a price decline near 50%. Wow. And greater in some areas. So yes. The article was, look at that. The article was updated on the 27th. So the article was, so Melody Wright apparently reached out to Newsweek and said, guys, stop saying I said 50% crash. So she had them rewrite the article, which is interesting.
But keep it in the headline so people will click.
Yeah.
And then in the actual body of the article, change it. And, I'll give you an example of another doomer, my buddy, George Gammon. Okay. You were asking about him the other day. So I took a screenshot of this thumbnail that also said, and this was several months ago, that housing prices will go down by 50%.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that's obviously clickbait, because in the video, if you listen to the video, he waits until the very end, because that's the whole game of YouTube retention, and he's very good at that. Okay. You want people to stay till the end of the video, right? Because that increases your ratings. And at the very end, he says, maybe house prices will come down a couple of percent. Yet the thumbnail says 50%, and it's this gory graphic that shows this incredible crash. Folks, you got to wake up. The biggest cost, the biggest risk to your financial future is no longer making a mistake of doing something that doesn't work out very well. It is making the mistake of doing nothing.
Yeah.
That is usually the bigger mistake. But because the human mind is very bad at evaluating what doesn't happen, we tend to just gloss over it. Okay. It's the old thing I say all the time. You can't hear the dogs that don't bark. Okay. Right. And this is just the way our minds work. We're trained to notice what does happen, not what might have happened. Okay. Right. That's just the way we work. And there's a profound impact of the things unseen. And what is unseen in most people's financial life is the decision they didn't make because some doomer scared them, and they basically lost the ability to have a good gain in their financial life. And it's the cycle.
The thing that gets me about doomers is they're renters and broke. And if you're trying to build wealth, why are you listening to renters and people who are broke?
You got to control assets, folks. The people with the assets are the people that win the game.
Yeah. I've actually come up with something. I'm curious if you think this. You're a Gen X like me. So there was a daytime TV show, I don't know what they're called, whatever, by a guy named Jerry Springer.
Oh yeah. That was hilarious.
It was totally trash.
I mean, are you thinking people don't know what that show is the way you reference it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that millennials know Jerry Springer.
Well, that's funny, because Jerry Springer was this talk show that was so sensationalist. He would have people on the show that were jilted ex-lovers, and then he'd bring out the other partner from behind stage, and they'd fight, like with their fist.
It was really, and that's. It actually came to me the other day when I was talking to someone. I'm like, these wannabe financial experts that
Right.
get on Newsweek like Melody, or get on CNBC like Nick, right? Nick Gurley's been on CNBC
Oh, I
lots of
know, I know,
times,
I know.
right?
He wrote that article about how the Airbnb market was going to crash the overall real estate market. He was totally fucking wrong. Okay. I mean, he was so wrong. It was
So wrong.
hilarious. And I
But
pointed that out on my show at the time of all the things he didn't mention. Remember, you can't hear the dogs that don't bark. It's what he didn't say that counted. Okay. And why he was wrong. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but every time I see this now, I'm just going to say Jerry Springer. That's going to be my comeback now.
That's
Jerry
good.
Springer.
That's a code
Jerry
word.
Springer.
Yeah.
Jerry Springer. Because again, and I think it's fair, Jerry Springer was sheer entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
For broke people that were home during the day.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. It was on at like 2:00 or whenever it was, 11
in the afternoon. Yeah, when
So
all the
you-
welfare
so you-
recipients are sitting at
when
home.
you were not at work,
right,
and you were a brokey, right? The people building wealth, owning assets, working, they were not watching Jerry Springer.
right.
So if you're getting your financial advice from Jerry Springer, guess what? You are going to be broke.
That is such a good point. A buddy of mine used to work for a very famous company called Agora Financial. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he learned a ton of things. They're a very smart guy. Okay. And one night we were having drinks, and he said to me, he said, what we do, and I was there with a couple other Agora people as well, friends of his, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what we do is financial entertainment. Okay. You have to understand that there's a difference between legit financial analysis and market analysis and market forecasting and entertainment. Okay. And Agora, for all their greatness and all their great marketing and all the brilliant people that work there, they're like the largest newsletter company in the world, by the way, if you don't know them. Okay. And I've had the founder, Bill Bonner, on my show. He's very, very smart guy, great writer. And but overall, you got to understand, there's a difference between sensationalism and entertainment and clickbait and legit analysis. And the people that are doing the legit analysis are never the most famous people.
It's boring. It's boring. Housing's going to be up 1 or 2%. That's not a headline. Oh, 50% crash, worse than 08, faster and bigger than 08. Oh, let's put you on news. And then again, I took pictures, right? Because I wanted evidence, because this is going to be, I'm gonna bring receipts.
Take screenshots and make sure you have the date stamp on those screenshots.
Absolutely right. So the U.S. housing market is going to face a price correction worse than 08, according to housing analyst Melody Wright, who expects home prices to drop in half as soon as next year.
Michael, she was on my show about 3 years ago, and she said, Jason, I swear I'm not a crash bro. and she was saying doom and gloom back then. That was about probably now it's about 3.5 years ago. And she was saying the market is going to totally crash. And back then, I would actually say, Michael, to her credit, that she had more evidence of that than she does today. Because we all saw those tremendously fast rate increases.
Yeah.
And we
we knew there was going to be impact, right? We just didn't know where.
A lot of people had good reason to be concerned about that. Although, you and I rightly predicted that it wasn't, I don't know if you said it the way I said it, maybe tell me, but what I said is, I said, what all the quote unquote experts failed to see is they saw what housing affordability would be like for new people entering the market. And it was terrible. And they were right about that. And they thought that would lead to a crash. But what they didn't see was a much larger issue. Okay, so if we take 4 to 6 million people, maybe on average, buying a house every year, right? There's a transaction about 4 to 6 million. Okay, that's the transaction number. What they talked about was that, right, of the new people buying, entering the market, and how unaffordable it was, saying it's going to crash because it's so unaffordable. But what they didn't see is the other 133 million people that already owned houses that had incredibly cheap mortgages during the COVID era, or no mortgage at all, and they were extremely comfortable. They were controlling the lion's share of the market. The people not selling, the people not doing anything, the dogs that didn't bark were the ones controlling the market.
Yeah.
And,
What
and
I
they just
yeah,
failed to see that.
what I told people is they forgot history. And I think Melody suffers from this is I think she has PTSD from the GFC. Everything's the
Yep.
GFC.
Yep.
Everything. It's always the GFC.
It's always a great
And
recession. Yeah. Right.
yeah, and unfortunately, I've studied housing and the economy all the way back to 1970, which had plenty of recessions. And why is that
Yep.
important? Because when the idiots like Nick were calling for a housing crash in 2022, I was like, no,
Well, Nick
guys.
was calling for a crash long before 2022, just so you know.
But this is when he hit my radar, was in 2022. And I'm like, guys, you're missing the point. We're going to have a transaction crash, right? Affordability doesn't mean prices fall.
Right.
There's this thing in economics called price elasticity.
Yep.
Prices are very sticky. But what can happen is transactions could crater, 10-year or turnover would fall, average tenure would grow, and bingo bango, it did happen. So what I was telling people, we would have a crash, but it would be in transactions, not price. Lo and behold, that's exactly what we had.
You were exactly right. And another thing people kind of fail to realize, I've noticed this mistake a lot. They seem to have this idea like that's very, very firmly planted in their head. And the idea is that because housing was affordable, by a certain number, maybe 3 times income. Okay.
Okay.
If the housing price was 3 times income before, okay, it has to revert back to that. No, it doesn't.
No,
Nobody
it doesn't.
said that it does. Nothing has to revert to a trend line because that doesn't take into account the amount of supply, the population change. It doesn't take into account all of these other.
Well, it doesn't even take into account freaking interest rates.
Yeah, right.
The only time price and income matter, and every time Nick throws up that chart, I'm like, you're such a moron. But I get it. It's a pretty chart. It's sexy. I get it.
Yep.
The only way that matters is if every single human being paid cash for their homes.
Yep.
That's the only reason that would matter.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. We have mortgages, which means we have interest rates, and we have 15-year and 30-year, maybe a 50-year. Again, it's on payment, Nick. It's not price. It's not price, and it's not income.
No question about it.
Stop creating the opportunity costs for your fans who didn't do anything.
Right, but let's dissect that just one more level, okay? So maybe to his credit, okay, and it's not to his credit actually, but to the credit of the concept, okay? Real estate is largely a credit-based asset.
Correct.
And when credit dries up, it constricts purchasing power, no question. So if someone was able to get a 2.5% mortgage during COVID, and now they got to pay 6.5, that matters a lot.
Of course.
But remember, that only matters for new buyers. It doesn't matter for all the people that already have the deal.
Yeah, the people that bought
years.
or refied have an unfair advantage for the rest of their life. They have a shelter cost that is reduced abnormally low, which means as their income rises, and folks, we've had 29 months in a row of real wage growth, not nominal, real wage growth.
Adjusted for inflation. Yeah.
Yes. And people are just like, they just don't. And here's another one. We'll close on this topic because it's just so funny how Jerry Springer gets quoted everywhere. And that's what I call them from now on. They're all just Jerry Springer.
The doomers are the new Jerry Springers.
That's all they are. They're just Jerry Springers. They're entertaining broke people, and good for them. Broke people need entertainment.
Yeah. And they're usually broke people too.
Of course, they're renting. Of course.
I gotta say, before you say that, Michael, there was this one guy that was trolling me like heavily for a while on Twitter and YouTube, and he kind of stopped because his crash didn't occur, right? He was telling me how wrong I was and how, and I just love it. And he was, I'm sure, a brokey. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Like I'm wealthy. If you're gonna find an example of someone to follow the guy who's actually done it. The person in the field. That's who the credit belongs to, like that famous, quote, right? The credit belongs to the man in the arena, right?
Mm-hmm.
And follow that person who overcame the obstacles, who actually did it, who jumped in and did it, who wasn't the chicken on the outside, the spectator, right? Yeah. And that's what the doomers are. They're spectators mostly, and they're just they're just on the sidelines. Anyway.
Yeah. I already forgot what I was going to say, but we'll close on this one. It's really funny because, people often call me a perma bull for housing.
Yeah, I've been called that too. Yeah.
I'm like, guys, do you not know my story? The biggest decision I made in my life is I sold all my houses in 06.
Wow.
I sold all 8 of them. I had 8 houses. I sold every single one of them. Right? I've been here before. I have no problem selling things that I think are overvalued.
Yeah.
Right? And oh, by the way, what else did I do? I flipped 55 homes from 2020 to 2022 because it was easy. Right? I get in and out of markets. I don't just do one thing. I'm not a one-trick pony. So it's pretty funny. But at the end of the day, Jason, you're amazing. We're just going to keep being right while they just keep watching Jerry Springer. Where can people find you?
Hey, jasonhartman.com or any podcast platform or YouTube, just type Jason Hartman. You'll see me there. And you'll also see me in Las Vegas.
Yes, sir.
At the One Rental at a Time conference. I'm so excited about that. And that is on Valentine's Day in Las Vegas. So it's going to be great to see everybody there. Michael, where can they get tickets for that?
Go to Eventbrite, or I will put a link in the show notes. Again, folks, we're less than 100 tickets, only 100 tickets left. Vegas is on sale. Get your flights, get your hotel. We'll see you there President's Day weekend. Jason, you're amazing. Thank you.
Peace.